Our next guest is an investigative reporter for the New York Times and recipient of 3 Pulitzer Prizes. Walt Bogdanich's new book, When McKinsey Comes to Town, The Hidden Influence of the World's Most Powerful Consulting Firm, takes a hard look at McKinsey and Company, which generates billions in revenue, consulting corporations and government entities. Bogdanich and his co-author, a fellow award-winning Times reporter, allege the firm often advises their clients at the cost of their workers and consumers. Walt, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. You and your co-author provide many examples throughout the book alleging that McKinsey and Company committed morally questionable practices. One example you write is they advised Purdue Pharma to assist in the sales of OxyContin, an effort in which McKinsey has now apologized for. And they said in a statement, "We apologize for our past work on opioids, and we're the first company to work with U.S. state attorneys general to help communities affected by the crisis." You state that their efforts in these cases have been able to evade public scrutiny. Why do you think that is?
Well, they're one of the most secretive companies in the world. I joke with my fellow reporters that they probably have more secrets than the CIA. Their entire business model is based on secrecy. They're big, they're powerful, and they're unaccountable. And that is catnip for investigative reporters who want to know what's happening. What are they doing? How are they affecting our lives? Why are they not disclosing what they're doing? Why is there not more transparency? Those are important questions because they are advising most of the major corporations in the world, most important corporations in the world, as well as governments around the world.
But they're just doing what they can do, what they're allowed to get away with, right? I mean, should there be some checks and balances put in place, would you say, by Congress?
Well, I think somebody ought to be doing some checks and balances. They shouldn't just leave it to Walt Bogdanich and Michael Forsythe, because until we came along, nobody really knew much of anything about McKinsey. And they affect our health, our jobs, our communities. And I think that's all pretty darn important, as evidenced by the Purdue Pharma. And I should add, it wasn't just Purdue Pharma that they were advising. They were advising other opioid makers. And they did more than just apologize. They had to pay more than $600 million to settle government investigations. And I guess money can buy, exemption from, government prosecution.
You write that many of McKinsey's clients go to them because of their prestige and international reputation. In another statement, McKinsey says, "We now follow a global client selection policy more rigorous than any other in our industry." I'm curious, what was the initial little yarn that you decided to pull that caused you to investigate this powerful corporation?
I've been interested for a long time in income inequality. It's tearing our country apart. And I wanted to know what influence McKinsey had on corporate America that had been making a lot of the decisions that led to job loss, that led to job exports, that led to the kinds of things that have helped destroy, to put it perhaps a little too strongly, the middle class. And the middle class is important in a country like ours and a democracy.
In another example, you allege that McKinsey and Company were not only advising the Pentagon and receiving hundreds of millions of dollars from the Defense Department, but at the same time were advising China Communications, an engineering company that was allied with the Chinese government. McKinsey has defended their work here and says that it has extensive internal rules to prevent conflicts of interest and to protect clients' information. You disagree with that. Curious why?
Well, first let me say that those changes that you mentioned just earlier about rigorous oversight of clients, that only happened because we were reporting about the problems that we saw in McKinsey at the New York Times, and others did that. It wasn't like they woke up one morning and said, "Oh, we're going to be good corporate citizens." We had to embarrass them by our reporting, and that's what reporters do. Good reporters do. I didn't set out to cause problems for McKinsey. And just to be upfront about this, McKinsey is not evil. There are very good people who work there. They hire the best and the brightest. And I've gotten to know a lot of them.
McKinsey and Company released a statement in response to your book, and I want to quote it again, saying that it fundamentally misrepresents our firm and our work. And when we have made mistakes, we acknowledge them and made changes. Further pushing back against your book, writing, it does not make clear to readers that virtually all the events they describe took place years and sometimes decades before our firm implemented its new client service policy. I know you just said that they didn't make some of these changes until they were basically shamed into it, but curious to get your response to their response.
Well, I think it's important to point out that the managing partner who led the fight for these changes was voted out of office. And in an extraordinary development, he only served one term. And by doing a lot of these things, he apparently angered a lot of the partners who vote on the managing partner. So the guy who wanted the changes was basically thrown out. And I guess that kind of speaks to the question that you're asking.
Walt Bogdanich, we thank you so much for your time. When McKinsey Comes to Town is now available wherever books are sold.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.